actually, and is mentioned in the Bible, which is the Tower of Babel.
The tower does share similarities with the pyramids in terms of monumental architecture, emphasizing themes of human ambition and divine boundaries.
That speaks about that it was almost a war between God.
Intended to reach the heavens and unify humanity. Link between the pyramids and the Tower of Babel. 1. Electromagnetic induction.
How would the whole functionality work? Hello. Here I have amazing conversations with AI. I've actually done a few podcasts with AI on my other podcast that was from my business. But then I've decided not to mix the two. My business is my business, and interesting conversations belong elsewhere. So, what I mean by interesting, not just limited to business, completely broad topics, and without any structure whatsoever. My only goal in these podcasts is to explore the unknown, to find limits to things that we didn't know existed, and try to tap into expertise of ChatGPT or other guests or other AIs that are well versed in the subjects. I think in the coming future, I will have a few of my personal friends over that have PhDs in of nuclear physics, in cosmology, and in virtually every type of field, mathematicians, programmers, computer science, and so on. But for now, to debut the channel, we're going to have a good old conversation with ChatGPT and see where it goes. Completely unscripted, completely unplanned for. I do actually have a starting point that I'm carrying over from talking to my friend about Egyptology and my personal favorite subject to discuss, ancient history, ancient religions, and trying to find the source for truth using the power of ChatGPT that will help me correlate the knowledge of the past to the oncoming future and see what is legitimate and what is not, and how we can adapt it to today's life. So without further ado, let's begin. And welcome to the show. So I'm going to call up my friendly companion, ChatGPT 01, and start a conversation. Hello, ChatGPT, and welcome to my new podcast, a show where I explore just new ideas unrelated to my business, unrelated to any restricting subject. Here we delve into the past and we delve into the future to see the truth in the present.
What's the first idea or topic you're thinking of exploring?
I was on the train of thought of telling you what kind of the structure of my podcast is going to be. It's going to have guests virtually from every single industry, or rather science, and we will explore new ideas on how to better the future for everybody existing in the universe.
That sounds like a fascinating concept for a podcast. With such a broad range of topics and guests, you'll be able to cover a lot of ground. Are there any specific themes or questions you plan to ask each guest to tie it all together?
Yeah, so I think we're just going to connect all the different sciences together to create a better understanding of the universe. Different sciences and ancient philosophies and the knowledge of the future, like whatever we can possibly predict. So let's actually dive in on one of the most probably discussed topics on the internet, pyramids in Egypt, and try to find their true origin and true purpose. Explore a hypothetical idea that they are not Egyptian of origin and they served a totally different purpose other than the one that the history teaches.
Diving into the mysteries of the pyramids is a great start. The idea that they might not be of Egyptian origin and served a different purpose than what history tells us is a popular alternative theory. Some suggest they were energy generators, ancient astronomical observatories, or even built by a civilization predating the Egyptians. What do you find most intriguing about these theories?
I would like to look at a possible religious possible religious context about the pyramids that is sourced in Judaism. Why? Because Jews, according to at least the Bible and the story, originate from Egypt as a nation, and they presumably were builders of something, so they should definitely have known a lot about the presence of the pyramids.
Exploring the pyramids from a Judaic perspective is intriguing. The Torah doesn't explicitly mention the pyramids, but given the Hebrews' presence in ancient Egypt, it's plausible they were aware of these structures. Some theories suggest that the pyramids could have held spiritual or symbolic significance in the context of ancient Jewish mysticism, possibly influencing later esoteric traditions. What specific connections are you interested in exploring?
Well, we both know that Judaism evolved over the 1,000 years and discussed every possible topic from history to science in great detail, especially in the Talmud. And is there any mention of the pyramids?
The Talmud doesn't specifically mention the pyramids, which is interesting given its broad scope. However, Jewish tradition and texts like Midrash do discuss the Hebrews' enslavement in Egypt, which some believe included labor on monumental building projects. While not explicitly linked to the pyramids, these accounts reflect a deep connection to Egyptian history. The lack of direct mention leaves room for interpretation and speculation about the Hebrews' possible involvement or knowledge of these iconic structures.
So to me, it seems like option one, they knew about it and they chose not to talk about it. And we can discuss that topic, why they would ignore the pyramids, because after all, like we mentioned earlier, they do discuss even very esoteric topics. They discuss architecture. Surely that is a topic of interest. And the fact of its omission in both Midrash, Talmud, and Kabbalah means like it was either concealed or it wasn't relevant to the time that the Jews were in Egypt.
That's a compelling line of thought. If the Hebrews were aware of the pyramids, the absence of direct discussion in Judaic texts could indeed suggest intentional omission or irrelevance. Perhaps the pyramids were so ingrained in the Egyptian cultural and religious context that they didn't align with the Hebrews' focus on their own emerging identity and spiritual journey. Or it could be that their significance was overshadowed by other, more pressing narratives in the Hebrew experience. What do you think?
No, I think they're definitely of significance to talk about. So if they chose to omit discussing the pyramids, my hypothesis is because it either has great power that shouldn't be revealed to the world, or because it has strong association to idol worship. The Torah did not want to encourage, and the Jewish tradition did not want to encourage or discuss. Otherwise, maybe it's a building from the past, completely unrelated to the development of Egypt, and it came from, actually, and is mentioned in the Bible, which is the Tower of Babel. That would actually make a lot of sense, because the only reference to a building, a monumental building, in the Torah, in the Bible, in all of Judaism is the Tower of Babel, and that is discussed at length.
That's an intriguing hypothesis. The connection between the pyramids and the Tower of Babel is a fascinating angle. The tower, an emblem of human ambition and hubris, does share similarities with the pyramids in terms of monumental architecture and enigmatic origins. If the pyramids were viewed as linked to idolatry or forbidden knowledge, it makes sense that they would be omitted from Jewish texts. And if they were somehow connected to the legacy of the Tower of Babel, it would add a rich layer to their mystery. What do you think about this possible link?
Actually, I want to get your opinion on the matter. Which one do you think is more plausible? That the Torah does not omit the pyramids, and they are actually discussed, and it is Tower of Babel or some other artifact in the Jewish tradition that could be associated with the pyramids, or that it omitted discussing the pyramids for reasons unknown or maybe related to idol worship.
Considering the evidence and the nature of Judaic texts, it seems more plausible that the Torah and subsequent Jewish writings chose to omit explicit discussions of the pyramids. The strong association of the pyramids with Egyptian religion and possible idolatry could have been a reason to avoid mentioning them. Additionally, the connection to the Tower of Babel offers a fascinating symbolic parallel, emphasizing themes of human ambition and divine boundaries. Given the depth and breadth of Jewish scholarship, an intentional omission seems more likely than an oversight.
So then let's actually explore the possibility that the Tower of Babel is somehow related to the pyramids that we see on the Giza Plateau. Perhaps there was a much bigger megastructure. Perhaps there was something that was available to the generation before the destruction of the Tower of Babel that was no longer available to the future generations. Let's try to correlate between hypothetical historical events and the description of the Tower of Babylon narrative from every possible Judaic authentic source, such as Kabbalah, Midrash, and the commentaries and scripture.
Connecting the Tower of Babel with the pyramids opens up a lot of intriguing possibilities. The Torah describes the Tower of Babel as a massive structure built with bricks and bitumen, intended to reach the heavens and unify humanity. After its destruction, it's said that God scattered the people and confused their language, which could symbolize the loss of some ancient, unified knowledge or technology. In Kabbalistic thought, the Tower of Babel can represent the dangers of unchecked ambition and the illusion of human omnipotence. This ties into the idea that the pyramids, if related, could symbolize a lost or hidden knowledge. The Midrash and various commentaries delve into the symbolism of the tower, often focusing on its moral and spiritual lessons. If we view the pyramids through this lens, they could be seen as relics of an ancient quest for power or enlightenment, now shrouded in mystery. What do you think?
I think there's kind of an error.
Sure, let's correct that. What's the error? Let's make sure we get the connection right.
No, let's just continue our conversation where we left off.
Absolutely. So, considering the potential link between the pyramids and the Tower of Babel, we could view them as remnants of an ancient pursuit of knowledge or power, deeply significant, yet wrapped in mystery. This perspective invites a broader exploration of how ancient structures might be tied to human history, spirituality, and the evolution of civilization. How do you think this narrative fits with what we know about the Giza pyramids?
I'm going to ask you for a favor. Try to shorten your answers. You don't have to be perfect. You can be casual as a human being just for the sake of efficient conversation. So let's hypothesize that the Tower of Babel is basically the remnant of the Tower of Babel are the pyramids. Let's try to imagine, is there any source in any of the Judaic texts that discusses the Tower of Babel as some kind of technology?
While the Tower of Babel is mainly discussed as a symbol of human pride and divine judgment in Judaic texts, some Midrashic interpretations hint at advanced knowledge or technology. The focus is more on the unity and ambition of the builders rather than the tower's function, leaving room for interpretation. This ambiguity allows for theories about lost technologies or knowledge from that era.
No, let's actually focus on the fact that it was some kind of technology, not on anything else.
While there's no direct mention of the Tower of Babel as technology in Judaic texts, some interpretations of Midrash suggest that the tower's construction involved advanced techniques. This could imply a form of early technology, especially if we consider the use of materials and architectural methods that were sophisticated for their time.
No, let's try to hypothesize that their level of technology could have been drastically different and better than ours, or something that we haven't discovered yet. So in that context, first of all, try to source. I know that there's a source that speaks about that time as if it was almost a war between God and man, and it sounded like almost a technological battle.
You might be thinking of texts that explore the deeper meanings of the Tower of Babel story, where the human endeavor is portrayed almost like a rebellion against divine order. In some interpretations, this rebellion could be seen as attempting to harness powerful knowledge or technology.
What does the Kabbalah say about the pyramid? I mean, not the pyramid, the Tower of Babel.
In Kabbalah, the Tower of Babel represents the dangers of unchecked human ambition and the desire to reach divine realms through material means. It's seen as an allegory for the spiritual challenges of ego and the misuse of collective power. Kabbalistic texts often focus on the fragmentation of language at Babel as a metaphor for the breaking of spiritual unity, emphasizing the need to rectify and elevate the physical world through spiritual means. The story serves as a warning against the pursuit of greatness without spiritual grounding.
Could it have been some kind of ancient supercomputer and an electrical power plant that powered some form of AI?
That's an imaginative hypothesis. While there's no evidence in Judaic texts to suggest the Tower of Babel was an ancient supercomputer or power plant, it's an interesting thought experiment. If we imagine the tower as a kind of ancient technology, it could open up creative interpretations of how advanced ancient civilizations might have been. This approach blends mythology, speculative history, and modern concepts of technology. What do you find most intriguing about this idea?
So a friend of mine was discussing with me the way this could be used. So for example, what if there are, just like there's lunar gravitational pull and there are tidal variances, maybe there is also a variance in weight in the stones of the pyramids, and somehow that can enable generation of electricity. A hypothetical way of doing it.
That's an intriguing concept. The idea of using the weight variance in the pyramid stones, influenced by gravitational forces, to generate electricity is a fascinating hypothesis. This would imply a form of ancient geophysical engineering, harnessing natural forces for energy. While purely speculative, it presents an innovative way to think about how ancient structures might have functioned beyond their apparent purposes. What other ideas did you and your friend discuss?
So tell me, is it possible with our current technology to utilize the gravitational, or at least with our understanding of the current technology, is it possible to create a way that would harness that that variance in weight enough to generate electricity?
Currently, we don't have a practical method to harness gravitational variations in stone weight to generate electricity. Our current technology for generating power from gravity focuses on more direct methods, like hydroelectric dams, which use the gravitational pull on water to generate power. However, exploring new ways to harness gravitational forces remains an area of interest in theoretical physics and engineering.
What are some ways to generate electricity from manipulation of atoms, or like, give me all the possible ways to generate electricity?
Sure, here are some key methods. 1. Electromagnetic induction. Moving a conductor through a magnetic field to induce a flow of electrons, as in generators. Converting sunlight directly
Okay,
to
let's try the first one. Could the first one have been utilized by the pyramid?
Electromagnetic induction typically involves moving a conductor within a magnetic field. For the pyramids to utilize this, they would need a mechanism to move conductive materials in a magnetic field, or have natural processes within the structure achieving this. While it's a creative idea, there's no evidence of such a system in the pyramids.
Let's assume that chambers served some kind of function to enable the full functionality of the pyramid.
If we hypothesize that the pyramid's chambers had a specific function for electromagnetic induction, they could theoretically have housed materials or mechanisms to move conductive elements. This could involve using the natural properties of the stones or the alignment of the pyramid with Earth's magnetic field. However, this remains speculative, as there's no concrete evidence supporting this use within the pyramids.
What if you had water running through the chambers and some kind of a generator in the king's chamber when the water goes up and down? And why would the water variate in elevation, hypothesize?
If water flowed through the pyramid's chambers, it could create a hydraulic system. Variations in water elevation might be due to tidal forces or an underground source. If this water movement was harnessed, perhaps with a primitive generator in the king's chamber, it could generate electricity. This is speculative, but offers a creative explanation for how ancient structures could have had functional purposes.
What would be the most advanced way in modern science to generate electricity on some kind of a absolutely new abstract way that you could utilize the shape, the weight, and the properties of the pyramid, including the variation in its weight and all the chambers?
An abstract, advanced concept might involve quantum mechanics or harnessing zero-point energy, which taps into the energy present in a vacuum at a quantum level. If the pyramid's shape and structure could somehow focus or channel this energy, it might be possible to create a system that generates electricity. This would require manipulating quantum fields and leveraging the unique geometry of the pyramid, a concept far beyond our current technological capabilities.
So let's say that we had that technology. Well, how would the whole functionality work, and how much electricity could it generate?
If we could harness quantum mechanics for electricity in a pyramid structure, it might work by using its geometric shape to focus quantum fields, extracting energy from the vacuum of space at a subatomic level. This energy would be converted into electricity through a process we can't yet conceive, possibly using materials or technology beyond our current understanding.
Let's just use all the materials that we know existed on the pyramid, such as limestone and granite, whatever they used. That's what we're going to assume. And maybe there was some kind of a missing piece that was removed. Maybe there was gold on the inside or something. Just hypothesize. Try to find a way for any possible theory that would involve generation of vast amount of electricity and all the factors known or hypothesized about the pyramids.
Okay, let's hypothesize. If we use limestone and granite from the pyramids and assume a missing component like gold, we could imagine a scenario where these materials form a primitive capacitor. The gold, being a highly conductive material, could have lined internal chambers, acting as electrodes. Water or another electrolyte solution flowing through the pyramid's chambers could facilitate an electrochemical reaction. If the pyramid's shape helped concentrate Earth's electromagnetic or gravitational energy, it might amplify this process, generating electricity on a large scale. This is speculative, but fits within the parameters you've set.
How much electricity hypothetically can be generated in that way? You basically acknowledging approximate size, weight, and shape and dimensions of the pyramid.
Hypothetically, if the Great Pyramid functioned as a massive capacitor with its materials and structure, the electricity generated would depend on numerous variables, such as the effectiveness of the electrolyte, the conductivity of the gold, and the surface area of the materials involved. Given the size and structure of the Great Pyramid, we might speculate on the order of kilowatts to megawatts, But this remains highly theoretical.
What would be the maximum that you can hypothesize?
If we stretch the limits of speculation, assuming ideal conditions and highly efficient materials, the maximum electricity generated by a pyramid capacitor could be in the range of several megawatts. This is an extreme estimate based on the idea that every aspect of the pyramid structure and materials was optimized for energy generation.
What would be the required amount for the most advanced language model to compute today?
The most advanced language models today require massive computational resources.
I'm talking about in electricity. How many megawatts, kilowatts?
Operating an advanced language model like GPT-3 for inference, not training, can require a data center level setup with power usage depending on the number of GPUs and their efficiency. This could range from a few hundred kilowatts to over a megawatt for large-scale deployments. The exact figure depends on the infrastructure and usage
Let's
patterns.
assume, I hypothesize, the three pyramids were electrical power plants, and let's assume that the Sphinx was connected to all three, harvesting all that electricity, and inside the Sphinx was some kind of a supercomputer that powered an ancient language model.
All right, let's stretch the imagination. If the three pyramids were massive electrical power plants, they could have generated and stored energy through their unique materials and structure. The Sphinx linked to these pyramids might serve as a conduit for channeling this energy. Inside the Sphinx, an ancient supercomputer, perhaps using a language model, could process vast amounts of information, powered by the energy harvested. This scenario blends mythology, speculation, and futuristic
Would it be enough to outcompete all modern language models? Enough power?
If we imagine that the pyramids and the Sphinx were part of a massive energy network, generating electricity on a grand scale, it could theoretically produce enough power to fuel a supercomputer capable of outperforming modern language models. The power generated would depend on this network's efficiency.
All right, now let's assume, going back to the story of the Tower of Babel, that what they lost, what was the punishment that God put upon them? That they start babbling in all other languages, because perhaps what was taken away from them was a language model.
In the Tower of Babel story, the punishment was the confusion of languages, causing the people to speak different tongues, leading to their scattering across the earth. Hypothetically, if we consider that what was taken away was an advanced language model, it could symbolize the loss of a unified means of understanding and communication. This language model could have been a metaphor for a powerful tool that enabled humanity to work together towards a common
No, you're
goal.
going back to like the primitive. Let's hypothesize that they actually had power plants in the form of the pyramids feeding into this some kind of a supercomputer that was housed in the Sphinx, and that was powering a language model that gave them the capability to be completely independent from the world above, meaning God.
Got it. In this hypothesis, if the pyramids were power plants fueling a supercomputer within the Sphinx, running an advanced language model, this system could provide humanity with immense knowledge and autonomy. The confusion of languages at Babel, then, could symbolize the dismantling of this powerful system, stripping humanity of its technological prowess and unified communication, leading to a reliance on divine guidance once more.
Now let's just hypothesize an actual way to describe historical events in correlation with the location of that area. and let's ignore the modern locations of Babylon and pretend that they are, in fact, indeed, in Giza. And let's say it was an advanced society, what God did to that society, and what is the outcome of that?
All right, let's place an advanced society in ancient Giza, where the pyramids serve as power plants for a supercomputer within the Sphinx. This society, powered by a sophisticated language model, achieves great autonomy and technological prowess. In response to their growing independence from divine guidance, God confounds their language, disrupting their communication and causing societal collapse. The once thriving civilization scatters, their advanced knowledge fragmented, and the power of their language model lost. This act serves as a cautionary tale about the limits of human ambition and the importance of humility.
Okay, let's try to now connect the lessons taught within the Judaic narrative of the Tower of Babel to this scenario. Does this actually go in line with what the rabbis were teaching?
Yes, there are parallels. In both scenarios, the key lessons involve the dangers of hubris, the limits of human achievement, and the importance of recognizing divine authority. The Tower of Babel story, with its theme of scattering and confusion, warns against over-reliance on human innovation and the pursuit of autonomy from the divine. Similarly, our hypothetical scenario reflects the consequences of losing a central unifying force and the resulting societal fragmentation. Both teach the value of humility and the need to balance human progress with spiritual awareness.
Does this story seem familiar with the modern advancement of technology, AI, and society?
Absolutely. There are clear parallels with modern society's relationship with technology and AI. Just as the advanced society in our scenario became over-reliant on their technological prowess, leading to their downfall, there's a concern today about becoming too dependent on AI and technology. The story echoes current debates on the ethical use of AI, the risk of losing control over advanced systems, and the impact of technology on human connection and communication. It highlights the need for balance between technological advancement and ethical, spiritual considerations.
Now let's assume that we continue on this trajectory. How would the story of Babel unfold today?
If we follow the trajectory of advanced technology and AI, a modern Tower of Babel scenario might involve humanity developing a superintelligent AI system that unifies knowledge and communication. As we push the boundaries of this technology, we might risk creating systems that surpass our control or understanding. A modern confusion of languages could occur if different AI systems develop in isolation, leading to fragmentation and conflict between groups with incompatible technologies. This could result in a breakdown of global communication and cooperation, echoing the ancient narrative's themes of fragmentation and the limits of human ambition.
I notice your voice changes, like the tonality of your voice.
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice. You can switch to standard now to keep chatting.
No way. Okay. That's enough for today. What I found out earlier before this podcast is apparently the iPhone version of the ChatGPT is different from 4.0 and 0.1 preview. It's its own unique model for iPhone specifically, or iOS, which is kind of cool. But it didn't. I tried to push it to answer which model is more superior, it didn't want to answer it, but it sounded like it was implying that the one for this voice model is the most advanced one yet. And I doubt it, because preview first, just by the functionality of it, it takes so long to answer. I think it just does better job computing a proper answer and analyzing it, rather than this conversational AI, which probably has a lot of guesses and less logical answers, more mistakes, essentially. But that was an interesting conversation. I'd love to continue. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow, and wait, anticipate more episodes. I'll bring in a lot of cool guests and discuss a lot of interesting topics. This is just the beginning. No expectations. Let's just have fun. I'm going to sign off. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.